Some people treat a clipboard like it gives them a badge. But in my world, real authority comes with consequences. I've always tried to keep a low profile in the neighborhood. Being a police officer means dealing with enough drama on the job. And the last thing I want is to bring that energy home. But some people, they just can't help themselves, especially when they've self-appointed as the local sheriff of the suburbs. I first met Karen Wilkins the very day I moved into Oakwood Estates. I was unloading boxes from my SUV when she strutted across the street, clutching a clipboard like it held state secrets. Her bleach blonde hair was pulled into a tight ponytail, and she wore what I'd soon recognize as her daily uniform. Khaki, pants, and a polo shirt embroidered with Oakwood HOA. "Excuse me," she said, offering a tight-lipped smile that never touched her eyes. "I'm Karen Wilkins, president of the Homeowners Association. Just wanted to welcome you. And make sure you're aware of our community guidelines." She shoved a thick binder toward me. "Please review this immediately. We have very strict rules about street parking, lawn maintenance, and visible work. Vehicles." Her eyes flicked over to my police cruiser parked in the driveway. "That'll need to be garaged or parked elsewhere. Commercial vehicles aren't permitted in residential areas." I accepted the binder with a nod. "Thanks for the welcome. I'm Mike Daniels, and that's a municipal vehicle. City policy allows officers to take them home. Helps with emergency response and neighborhood safety." Karen's smile tightened. "Well, I'm sure we can find a solution that works for everyone. Just remember, our property values rely on consistent standards." She tapped the binder. "Page 47 covers vehicle restrictions." I thanked her again and turned back to unpacking. But I could feel her still standing there, watching, clipboard in hand, eyes burning a hole in my back. She lingered for another minute, scribbling something, before finally walking away. What I didn't realize at the time was that this was just the beginning of a 6-month war. 3 days later, the notes started showing up. Violation, non-residential vehicle in residential zone. Then, violation, unauthorized signage on vehicle. My cruiser's department markings apparently counted as signage now. That's when I pulled out the HOA binder and started reading. Carefully. There was nothing in the HOA bylaws that prohibited municipal vehicles, nor any rule requiring police cruisers to be garaged. I brought it up at the next HOA meeting, hoping for clarification. But Karen steamrolled right over me, shifting swiftly to more pressing concerns, like Mrs. Peterson's unapproved bird bath. By my second month in Oakwood, Karen had kicked things up a notch. She began taking daily photos of my cruiser, from every imaginable angle. She'd stand out front, phone raised high, dramatically documenting the violation, while making sure the neighbors noticed her civic dedication. One morning, I caught her crouched by my driveway, measuring the distance between my tires and the curb with a tape measure. "Everything okay, Karen?" I called from my porch. She startled slightly, then squared her shoulders like she'd been waiting for a courtroom moment. "Just documenting continued violations. You're 6 inches from the curb. Regulation is 5. "Actually," I replied, calmly, "municipal code allows up to 8 inches. But hey, I appreciate your dedication to precision." She huffed and turned away, already jabbing furiously at her phone, probably alerting the Neighborhood Watch Facebook group about the renegade cop who wouldn't follow her rules. But then things turned absurd. Mrs. Garcia next door pulled me aside one evening, looking sheepish. "Karen's been telling people you're a threat to the aesthetic and communal harmony," she whispered. Apparently, my cruiser was causing psychological distress to neighbors who wanted a purely civilian atmosphere. I stayed professional. It wasn't my first experience with someone on a power trip. In my line of work, you learn to de-escalate and document. So I did. Every note, every confrontation, every fabricated rule she tried to enforce. Then came the breaking point. It was A Wednesday morning. I just finished an early shift and returned home around 8 a.m. I changed into running clothes and headed out for my usual 3-mile jog. But when I turned the corner back onto our street half an hour later, I stopped in my tracks. A tow truck was backing slowly toward my cruiser, lights flashing, and there was Karen, standing proudly on my lawn, arms folded, barking instructions like a field general. "That's the one," she said loudly. "Take it now. We've given multiple warnings." Still catching my breath from the run, I walked over, calm but alert. The tow truck driver looked visibly uncomfortable, scratching the back of his neck as he glanced between Karen and my clearly marked police cruiser. "Morning," I said, directing my tone to the driver first. "Is there a problem with my vehicle?" Karen spun around, face flushed. But instead of retreating, she doubled down, fueled by self-righteous fury. "Finally," she snapped, "you can deal with this in person. Your vehicle is being towed for repeated violations of Oakwood Estates covenants. I have full HOA authority to enforce our rules." The driver shifted uneasily. "Ma'am called in about an unauthorized vehicle. Didn't mention it was a police car." I gave him a polite nod. "I'm Officer Daniels, Metro Police Department. This is my assigned unit, legally parked in front of my residence, in compliance with city code and your HOA's own guidelines." I pulled out my phone, opening a PDF. "If you'd like to review it, Section 12.4 of your bylaws specifically exempts municipal vehicles from commercial vehicle restrictions." Karen's face flushed a deeper shade of red. "Those are outdated," she barked. "We passed an amendment last month. No exceptions." But the tow truck driver was already stepping back. "Look, I can't tow a police vehicle without official authorization," he said, shaking his head. "You'd need department paperwork, or a court order." He gave me an apologetic nod. "Sorry for the confusion, officer." Karen's voice climbed to a shrill pitch. "Don't you dare leave," she shrieked. "I'm the HOA president, and I'm ordering you to remove this eyesore immediately." By now, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, watching from driveways and sidewalks, trying to look casual but clearly drawn in by the spectacle. And Karen, she played right to them, her voice theatrical. "This man is abusing his position," she shouted, finger stabbing the air toward me. "He thinks the law doesn't apply to him because he's a cop. Well, nobody is above the HOA rules." I stayed calm, turning back to the driver. "You're free to go, sir. This is just a misunderstanding." He nodded, turning back toward his truck. But before he could climb in, Karen grabbed his arm. "I'll report your company. I'll sue you for breach of contract." Karen barked, blocking the driver from leaving. That's when I had to step in, officially. "Ma'am," I said, voice firm but calm, "please remove your hand from this gentleman. You're bordering on assault and interfering with a vehicle operator." She yanked her hand back but turned the full force of her fury toward me. "How dare you threaten me on my own street?" she snapped. "I've been running this neighborhood for 7 years. No one parks commercial vehicles here." I took a steadying breath. "Karen, at this point, you've attempted to illegally tow a police vehicle, falsely claimed HOA authority, and created a public disturbance. I'm asking you, please return to your home while I sort this out." "I will not," she shrieked, all composure lost. "You can't order me around. This is private property." "Actually," I said quietly, "you're standing on my lawn." She looked down, blinking, only just realizing she'd stormed onto my property during her tirade, but instead of backing off, she doubled down. "Fine. Arrest me. Go ahead. Show the whole neighborhood what kind of power-mad cop you really are." I sighed and reached for my radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Daniels. I need a patrol unit at 742 Oakwood Lane for a civilian attempting to illegally tow a marked police vehicle." Karen's face turned from red to sheet white as the weight of the moment finally hit. "You're seriously calling the police? On me?" "I am the police, Karen. And yes, I'm calling backup because you're attempting to commit a crime. Less. Then 5 minutes later, 2 patrol units rolled in. Officers Rodriguez and Chan stepped out, surveying the scene with professional caution. "What's the situation, Daniels?" Rodriguez asked. I gave them a brief rundown while Karen launched into a frantic defense, shouting over me with wild claims about her HOA powers. Officer Chan moved to speak with the tow truck driver, who calmly explained he'd been called under. False pretenses. Then Rodriguez turned to Karen. His voice was formal, clipped. "Ma'am, did you identify yourself as having the authority to order this vehicle towed?" "I am the authority," Karen snapped. "I am the HOA president." "I'm the president, actually," came a voice from the crowd. "You're not." We all turned. It was Walter Freeman, an elderly man I vaguely remembered from my move-in day. He stepped forward, a folder tucked firmly under one arm. "My key." "The HOA secretary," he said clearly. "Karen has never been elected president. She was the temporary chair of the landscaping committee. 2 years ago. That term ended. She's been claiming authority ever since, and frankly, most of us were too intimidated to say anything." Karen opened and closed her mouth like a fish gasping for air. That's a lie." Walter is confused. He's practically senile. Walter didn't flinch. He simply raised a brow and flipped open his folder. "These are minutes from every HOA meeting for the last 10 years. Your name disappears from the officer list after 2022. Officer Rodriguez looked from Walter to me, then back at Karen. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "I need to see some identification, please." What followed was a slow-motion crash of pride and panic. Karen refused to show ID. Then she tried to walk away. When Officer Chan stepped in front of her, she resisted. That left the officers with no choice. Right there, on my front lawn, they read her Miranda rights as a dozen neighbors pulled out their phones, recording every second. The charges weren't small. Attempted theft of a government vehicle, filing a false report, impersonating an HOA official, and when they searched her infamous clipboard, they found fake violation notices for half the neighborhood, along with handwritten records of actual fines she'd collected from several elderly residents. Karen sobbed as they placed her in the patrol car, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "This is all just a misunderstanding. I was trying to maintain our standards. The neighborhood needs me." Later, I learned she was facing up to 18 months in jail, with fines totaling over $15,000. But the most immediate blow came that very evening. An emergency HOA meeting was called, and the neighborhood, unanimously, voted to permanently ban Karen Wilkins from ever holding any position in the association again. When the verdict was announced, Karen's perfectly composed face collapsed, her mouth forming a stunned O of disbelief. Her reign of suburban terror had finally come to an end.